Good evening everyone, welcome back to the channel. I hope everyone is doing well. I just posted quite an emotional video on my main channel and all the other social media networks where I'm active that is featuring me driving a car like most of the times, and at the end of the lap the owner of the car is telling me that it is 3 years, exactly 3 years, since his best friend was tragically killed in an accident on the Nürburgring. When he said it was a Miata, I instantly realized it was Nico, someone that I also knew. Now, and because of that, I would like to make this additional video for the second channel where I would like to tell you more about the accident involved and to speak about the safety at the Nürburgring and what has been done ever since to prevent these kind of cases from happening ever again, and what I think what should be done potentially to avoid any further accidents or injuries, and also more importantly, since I'm sure many of other Nürburgring enthusiasts and drivers will be watching this video, I would like to hear from you what you think that can be done in the future. Now, starting with the saddest part, what actually happened on that tragic day 3 years ago. A traditional freak accident where someone spilled coolant or oil. Now, you already hear me saying traditional, I will get back to that later on. So it happened shortly after Lauda Links or Lauda Left, a very fast corner that an average car or an average driver with contemporary car will reach speeds of over 200 kilometers per hour. A multi-car pileup happened, and one of the cars was actually a tow truck that also crashed over the fluids and went in the barrier. After that, unfortunately, one of the cars that hit the oil spill was Nico in his MX-5, and he went straight under the tow truck. He had no chances of surviving. There were many more cars involved, also a biker, because I've seen the picture from the scene. I never want to see anything like that ever again. Like anyone. Yes. We made 3 years ago a video. By we, I mean me and Robert from Apex from back at the time, talking about the situation, because the big disappointment, the big point of frustration from all the locals was that there was no marshal. There was no safety marshal that could have phoned in the, the marshal office saying like, hey, there is an accident, or there is an oil spill, or there is a big pileup. Please, yellow flag, yellow light, close the track, warn people, we need to avoid that it's going to get worse. Now, there were actually even people on the scene who tried to call the marshals, but this is one of the dead spots of the track where you have no phone reception, therefore nothing could have been done. And this was a big point of discussion, why there was no marshal. And even today it's still a big point of discussion, why are there sometimes no marshals? The reason for that is because TF, Tourist and Fountain Public Session Nürburgring, is being classified as a public toll road, and you do not have safety marshals also on the Autobahn, where you're allowed to drive unlimited. And when accidents happen, well, it can cause for quite some issues. It's a very long discussion point. At the same time, you also, during the 24 hours of Nürburgring, you have over 500 marshals on the track to make sure that 180 cars, I think we had last year, or maybe less, I think less actually, can participate safely. Now, on an average TF night, there might be, back then, 0 marshals. Nowadays, between 5 and 10, depends, to make sure that 500 cars, sometimes on the same lap at the same time on track, will be safe. That was a big critique point. Why was there nobody? because it's TF, because you just need to make sure that you're driving safe by your own. For many, many years, everyone has been pushing to make sure that the Nürburgring is going to be a safer place. Starting with even Niki Lauda himself in 1976, who had a horrible accident on the same place where Nico died, actually. Back then, 3 years ago, we were thinking, not only us, but everyone for many recent years, everyone was suggesting why not to have some sort of digital safety marshalling system like many of the recent tracks have. In Spa or any other Formula One track, you have cameras, you have LED boards, etc., etc. Now, fast forward, people who have been following the Nürburgring in recent years, you know that Nürburgring has invested heavily, tens of millions of euros for this particular safety system, because it's a long track, you need to put cables through there, you need to install the cameras. It was not something that was done easily. So 3 years ago, actually, they started with that system. First they did half a track, no, first they done a test on the Döttingehöhe. The test was okay on the main straight. Then they did one half of the track. Now last winter they finished the second half of the track, and this year we have the testing operational season, I would say, where the system is being learned to detect issues such as coolant spills, such as crashes, such as deer on track, which happens actually quite often. So this year is a test year, and next year officially the system will become fully operational. And at the same time, there are also a couple of other safety features that have been implemented ever since. Now, my thinking in general about this situation, I'm extremely happy that we now have this AI system. At the same time, I know that this system actually this year has prevented quite some nasty crashes and has prevented also quite some interesting nasty situations. I haven't posted a video yet, but there was a day when I was driving a lap and I saw that the system, the LED board, was showing rain while it was dry. So it was showing like, watch out, the next corner is going to be wet, which is one of the most unpleasant surprises you can encounter on the Nürburgring, aside from obvious fluid spills. And yes, it was actually wet the next corner, which wasn't the case the previous lap. And that system has definitely helped me to avoid a nasty situation or a crash, and definitely to many other drivers. So it did help already with some of the lesser expected situations. I also know that we had still very sketchy crashes, bad crashes happen this year, where they happened with multiple cars behind them as well, caused by fluid spills. And I don't know if system was not operational or whatsoever, but we cannot say anything because officially this year the system is still not fully operational. And at the same time, at those spots there was no safety marshal, so we still have those issues. Hopefully next year, when the system officially will be operational, that these problems will not happen, but I'm not so certain. More on that in a separate case in a bit. In general, we all need to know and be aware that driving is something is exciting, is great, but things can go wrong. And even last year, 2 people that lost their lives on the Nürburgring were test drivers, where they had a horrible tire blowout at 300 kilometers per hour during industry pool, during what should have been the most safe environment ever, or like in this particular case. Unfortunately, things happen and things will continue on happening. So at the end of the day, everyone is in charge of their own decisions and make sure that their equipment is functioning safely. So, to finalize this chapter, I'm happy that 3 years later we have something that will definitely avoid situations like happened with Nico once they will become fully operational, once this AI system will be fully operational. I sincerely hope so. At the same time, I know that some things will still happen. Now, what am I talking about? And that brings me to the next point, a couple of other safety features that the Nürburgring has implemented to make public sessions safer environment for everyone. So one of them, as of this year, or I think as of last year, you are not allowed to enter the track with a pickup truck because they are unsafe. Now, you can take 1969 Ford Ranchero on the track, which could be perceived as questionable when it comes to its safety conditions, and it's essentially a pickup truck, but an actual pickup truck, it's not okay, because for whatever reason they seemed unsafe. Now, to give you a personal example more in detail, we had, by we I mean me and CarWow, we had the opportunity to drive a Cybertruck on the track. Knowing that during public sessions this kind of vehicle is not allowed, we asked if this was possible to be driven on a track day. To which to make sure, we asked the Nürburgring officials, and the access was denied, saying that this is an over 3-ton vehicle, which I understand. And if you go through the barriers, if you hit the barriers, you will go through the barriers, and there is no way we're going to be able to recover this particular vehicle. Now, that was quite understandable on one hand, but then again, driving a 2.8-ton BMW XM, which we did earlier this year, is okay. Driving a Ford Ranchero is okay, but driving pickup trucks is not okay. Driving BMW XM or BMW X6 or any kind of SUV is okay, but pickup trucks not. I don't make the rules, I don't know, but they are quite, I don't know, interesting to me. Now, another rule that has been introduced as of this year, only vehicles, because cars and bikes are allowed on the Nürburgring, can only enter public session Nürburgring if they can drive at least 130 kilometers per hour. So all of the older stuff, I'm not sure if the old Beetle or the old 2CV, like the 2 Chevaux, like one of the most iconic cars in the world ever made, Fiat 500, I think the old Fiat 500 cannot do 130, maybe it can do 110. Those cars are automatically not allowed. The reasoning behind it is quite okay, saying that the speed difference has become too high between the older classic cars and the modern contemporary cars. So by saying so, there is an acknowledgement that today's cars are extremely fast. By saying that we are not having marshals because it is a public road, but we are allowing any cars or any bikes because it's a public road and cars need to be street registered. It is a public road. This all makes sense, the public road argument. But then taking away pickup trucks, taking away sub 130 kilometers per hour cars, because we make our own rules, doesn't make sense, but it does make sense in terms of safety. But then comes my biggest issue, so to say, here, is that as of today, you are not allowed to use Hans device in public session Nürburgring, because the reasoning behind it is that Hans system is also not allowed from the public driving on the road, because traditionally wise, it does not allow you, or like it restricts your head movement, and it does not allow you to look in your mirrors correctly or next to you while there's another car passing you. And I'm telling you all of this with some pain in my neck, because I had my share of accidents also on the passenger seat, actually most on the passenger seat, where I have hurt my neck, and actually my neck muscles kind of hurt because we were not allowed to wear Hans. The funny story behind this is that when I'm racing, I'm expected to wear Hans. When I'm racing in a slower car, I'm expected to be able to look in my mirrors and make sure that GT3 cars are passing either our GT4 car or let alone Dacia Logan that I was driving in 2021 or any other car. So you are expected to look in the mirror for faster cars. But in the public sessions, that Hans system is restrictive, therefore it is banned. While it is there mostly to protect people, while understanding that cars today have become extremely fast. Really, 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 really fast. So that is something also knowing for the fact that hybrid Hunt systems allow free head movement, that they are not allowed, while other things are being banned because they cause not safety. I don't know. That's for me one of the things. Pickup trucks are being banned, and a lot of people are going to hate me for saying this right now, but a lot of people are also saying that one of the most insane facts is that this is the only time in the world on any track that bikes and cars are allowed to be there. Now, I have personally no problems with bikers. Sometimes I am quite frustrated when they do not see their mirrors, and I am extremely afraid of passing them, because if they not even look in the mirrors and they do not move over to the right, I'm like, ugh, whew, sketchy, scary. And I really believe that everyone should be able to enjoy this most beautiful piece of tarmac in the world. So I'm not saying that the bikers should be banned, but if I would have to ban someone, not ban, but like separate, I would prefer to have separated days of bikes and cars instead of banning pickup trucks and sub 130 kilometers per hour cars. That's something in my personal opinion. When it comes to the total global picture, because everything needs to make sense, everything needs to be logical. At the same time, cars need to be safe to enter the track. Now, I've seen quite often that certain cars are not allowed to enter the track because they are lacking certain things, or they have too many certain things, like for example big wings, but there are no checks for cars potentially leaking oil or fluids, because that should be covered by the driver, by the owner of the car, and by their insurance. Speaking of insurance, there's also no check whether the car is properly insured, because that needs to be, well, done by the driver itself. And if he gets into trouble, that's his problem, that he gets sued. And of course, checking all these cars for documents, for papers, to checking under the bonnets, this will cause an even bigger traffic jam that we have right now. Why I made this video, like I said, I wanted to tell you more what has happened ever since. I'm extremely happy that things are moving forward. Some things are still questionable to me, why certain decisions are being made, or why certain decisions are not being made. And that's all there is to it. And I would like to hear from you what you think about it. And for you, most importantly, to be aware that things can go wrong, and therefore make sure that your equipment is safe, that you have everything in order, and that we try to have great fun together on this beautiful track and not to endanger each other. And always be prepared for the worst.